Most businesses are doing LinkedIn completely wrong. And after 6 years of testing what actually works, I've identified 6 fundamental principles that drive real results. And now I've used these extract strategies to help clients book calls with huge companies like Calendly, Google, PwC. And today, I'm sharing everything I've learned. No fluff, just exactly what works. And let's start with the biggest mistake almost everyone makes. The first thing you need to know is that you're probably focusing on the wrong profile. One of the biggest mistakes and most obvious mistakes people make is they obsess over their company page when really they should be leveraging the personal profiles instead. But here's the true reality. LinkedIn's algorithm really heavily favors personal profiles over company profiles. It's actually not even a close competition. A personal profile can get 5 to 10 times more organic reach than a company page, even with the exact same content. And now you may be thinking, why is that and what is LinkedIn doing? And there's a couple reasons. One, there's a deep psychological reason why this approach works better. And it's because it's much easier to build a brand around a person because it inherently has a face than it is to build a brand of a company because the company is faceless. A company could be anonymous. It could be anything. So it's really hard to get traction there. You, as a personal brand, have inherent trust. People know you, they like you, they trust you. We need to leverage that moment. And remember, people need to trust you before they buy from you. And if they trust you as a person, they're just so much more likely to buy. And so the obvious mistake people make is that they're only thinking about their company page when honestly, it's kind of irrelevant. You don't even need a company page. We have 2 personal profiles, myself and Paolo. We don't even post from our company page. We never have, but we're still booking in 90 calls a month. That should tell you very clearly, you just need to set up the company page, and from that point onwards, it doesn't really matter. Now, what should you do with this information? One is you need to choose key people from your company, including ideally the founder, and focus your content strategy on building their personal brands and finding the Venn diagram, the overlap where their personal brand meets where you can speak to your ICP. Now, your company page should kind of act like a resource hub, but not really as your primary distribution channel. Now, when you start posting from your personal profile, I want you to remember one very thing and pay very close attention to it. Because the second principle I've learned after my 6 years of being on LinkedIn is that no one buys services, no one buys deliverables, no one buys whatever you think you're selling. They're actually buying the outcome. They're buying the transformation that happens after you deliver what you deliver. But unfortunately, you're probably not showing that clearly on your profile, which is a big reason why you may be struggling to get results or to see booked in calls or to see revenue from LinkedIn. Now, let me give you a really concrete example. If you sell accounting services, you think you're selling bookkeeping. No, you're not. You're most actually likely selling lower taxes, growing a business, lower costs, identifying costs. See, no one wakes up excited to buy accounting services. They wake up wanting to reduce their tax bill or avoid an audit. Now, the reason why this is so important is because if you align what you're selling with what they're actually buying, with what they actually care about, their desired outcome, you can honestly immediately 2 to 3x your close rate, and it's got nothing to do with LinkedIn. I've worked with a client and we've repositioned their outcome 3 or 4 times as we learned what our buyers actually buying, and every time we repositioned, we were able to increase our close rates and increase the amount we charge. We went from helping people reduce their turnover to helping people grow their business. Very different things related to the same idea. Now, to be clear, if you're not selling a tangible outcome, like revenue growth, leads generated, costs reduced, time saved, you might be thinking, how does this work with me? So if you are probably a coach, maybe a leadership coach, you may be selling intangible outcomes like confidence, leadership skills, peace of mind, status. You can still sell these, and you should still promise these as an outcome in your headline, in your profile, in your about section, in your content, because that is what you're selling. You're not selling the one-on-one calls you provide. You're selling the end transformation. And yes, sometimes it's not as clear as leads generated or booked calls, but it all still works. Honestly, I've had some of the best sales calls where prospects were already pre-sold before we even spoke. And that's because they knew exactly what I did and who I did it for. This honestly was not a mistake. It was the result of having very clear communication of the outcomes I deliver throughout my LinkedIn presence. The number one thing is to make it clear exactly what you're selling, which is what the customer is buying everywhere. By doing this, any sales activity you're already doing will boost in effectiveness. So this point exists beyond LinkedIn. It exists beyond content. It exists for your whole business. And if you do this now, I promise you, you will start making more money very quickly. Now, the third principle is to avoid directly selling in your posts. Now, A ton of businesses think that if they just communicate what they're selling, that it's then going to work and they're going to get a bunch of people coming inbound. And the honest truth is it doesn't. Here's what actually works. Instead of selling directly, you need to demonstrate your authority. And that's a very slightly different angle. You shouldn't forcefully sell in your posts as much as demonstrate your expertise and your value. The most powerful sales don't happen when you convince a buyer. They actually happen when your buyers believe they've discovered you and you're the right thing they need right now and it's going to solve all their problems. Your real job is to engineer that perfect discovery experience. When a prospect feels like they found you rather than they've been sold to, their psychological ownership massively increases. They become your biggest supporters rather than just your customers. And this is what creates what psychologists call the endowment effect. People value what they discover more highly than what's presented to them. And I will have this all the time. I will have sales calls where people will say, oh, it was just the right perfect time and you completely capture what I was talking about and what I was feeling and what I was trying to get through. And that's because they were seeing me as a solution to their problems because I was the authority versus what I needed to sell them. So here's what you need to do instead. You need to demonstrate your authority in the form of stories and in the form of case studies and personal journeys. That is much, much better. It means that you have to talk about yourself a little bit more, but not so much that you're feeling cringe and awkward. You basically need to show and not tell. Now, the principle is really simple. When you demonstrate authority rather than just claiming it, you trigger a completely different psychological response inside your prospects. Instead of triggering their defense mechanisms, you're positioning yourself as a trusted partner, someone they can rely on. And now you're being pulled into conversations rather than pushing your way in. Now, this approach has another massive benefit. It pre-qualifies your leads and makes them want to work with you only. The people who reach out to you after consuming your content are much, much more likely to be a good fit for your services. But this strategy requires you to avoid a common problem when it comes to making your content. The fourth principle is to stop creating generic thought leadership content. Here's the thing. Thought leadership content is essential. We agree with that. But 79% of buyers use it to eliminate, not select the people they want to buy from. Think about that. They're using it to eliminate, not select. Because the biggest issue I see is that generic thought leadership content completely reduces your authority in the market. It's actually the complete opposite. Data shows 97% of B2B marketers are active on LinkedIn, yet only the most insightful posts that challenge what the market thinks actually seem to convert into getting booked calls. And what's happening here is a psychological principle called the distinction bias. What that is when directly compared, small differences between options become magnified massively. Generic content makes you seem average and ordinary in the market. And most companies produce content that looks so identical to their competitors. So when it comes to purchasing your services, your potential customers simply can't actually differentiate or tell the difference between you and your competition. So naturally the question is, what should you do instead? Instead, you should create content that actually positions yourself as an authority. Okay, cool. How do I go about doing that? The most simplest way to do this is in the hook of your post, literally state why you're an authority. And I was working with a client just now who was getting around 5-10 likes a post. And all we did is we added to the start of his hook. In the last 8 years, I've set up thriving data and analytics departments for billion-dollar companies. Here's how. So if you think about that, a lot of that hook was building authority and building status. So we just added a little bit to the start of the hook, and that post literally got 10 times more engagement than any of his other posts. So the takeaway for you is instead your content needs to position you as an expert by literally saying, I am an expert, and you giving proof of it in some form of number or amount of money you've done or the number of people you've worked with, or something that just proves that you're good at what you do. And when you're getting good at that, you can get even more advanced with it. You can take a clear position, even if it's controversial, on a certain topic. I literally had a post recently where I said, harsh truth, your LinkedIn posts are actually getting you less clients. I took a very clear position in the market, and by doing so, I'm pushing myself as an authority because I'm making something said and out loud into the market that most people don't believe. I also want to back it up because I'm challenging an industry assumption that if you just post more, you'll get more clients. FYI, that's not true. And I'm offering a fresh perspective that others just don't. Remember, if your content could have your competitor's logo on it, and still makes sense, it's not different enough to drive results and it doesn't paint you as an authority. You can't put your competitor's logo on a statement where you say, I spoke to 20 CMOs, this is what I learned. But only you can put your logo there, only you can put your face there, and that's what paints you as an authority. But honestly, creating good content is only part of the equation. You also need a way to convert that content into booked calls. Now, the fifth principle focuses on conversations, which is where actually most LinkedIn users completely fail. So what is the fundamental reason why people cannot book calls on LinkedIn? So the fundamental reason why people don't book calls on LinkedIn is they don't look human. In the DMs, you literally have to look like a real person. Do not look automated. Most people send messages that look so obviously automated. Hi, first name. I noticed you work with company name. We help businesses like yours increase efficiency, reduce costs. Would you be open to a 15-minute call to discuss how we might help you too? This approach doesn't just fail to book calls. In my opinion, it actively damages your brand. Now compare this to someone who sends multiple line messages which mirror the way you talk as I'm speaking right now, and maybe a voice note, maybe drops a location reference somewhere saying, oh hey, did you go to that cafe? It's just so much more powerful when you do it manually versus when it's automated. And that's because as humans, we are literally looking for automation to feel like, hey, is it worth me wasting my time on this response? So here's what actually works instead. It's called the qualify, snatch, probe method. Once you have a conversation going with a prospect on LinkedIn, you want to take that conversation to somewhere where it books in a call. But the thing is, we don't want to book in calls with unqualified people. We don't want to book in calls with people that we don't understand if we can actually help them or not. So we got to do it a different way. And the qualify, probe, snatch framework works really well. So what you do in this conversation, this back and forth you're having with someone, as if you were in real life on LinkedIn, is you send the question, oh, how's stuff going in your business? That's a very subtle probe. They might give you something back. Oh, it's going well. We're trying to scale with AI. You then might probe again. Oh, cool. AI. What are you trying to do? Cut costs? We're probing for a pain. They might go, yeah, we're trying to cut costs. We're trying to increase our margin. That's their goal. As you go back and forth, you begin to probe for what they actually care about and their actual pain points and what actually makes them good. Now, subtly, in your probing, you're going to be collecting data from them, which is either going to be qualifying them or disqualifying them from your main offer, and whether or not you want to book them into a sales call. So as you do this probe and qualification, you try to work out what's going on, you try to help them out, you're being very conversational, you're using very normal language. In that process, there will come to a point where you know this is like, hey, this is a person that I want to book in a call. This is a person I want to speak with. At which point you snatch the conversation. You move the conversation. You say, hey, I want to offer you this bit of value. Do you want to jump on a bit of a call with me next week? And by doing that, you're basically moving a conversation which is progressing pretty well and pulling it out just before it gets to the really juicy bit. And that creates a little bit of tension, which is relieved on this call that you're going to have. And that's a really clean way to take a conversation into a booked call. And I have people that literally do this every single day, and they're booking 2, 3, 4, 5 sales calls a day from their profile pretty predictably. Now, there's a lot to DMs, and I'll give you a couple more tips. If you're trying to do follow-up messages, less is more. You shouldn't send too many follow-up messages. 1 or 2 is completely sufficient. And if you try to automate your messages too aggressively, it will look very automated. Remember, quality always beats quantity when it comes to LinkedIn messaging. But once you get the call, it's only just the beginning. Because the sixth and final principle is about maximizing your close rate once you've got the prospects on the call. See, the best LinkedIn strategy in the world won't help you if you can't convert interested prospects into paying clients. And let me show you and share with you some of the most powerful tactics I've developed for closing sales calls. So here is my call framework, but caveat very quickly, this call framework works exceptionally well when the lead or the person on the call already knows, likes, and trusts you, because at that point, you're more taking an order than trying to convince them to buy something. So at the very start of the call, what you want to do is ask them how they found out about you, what was their journey. Now, I know that might sound a bit weird, but you basically want to ask them a quite open-ended, generic question to let them just speak. And as they speak, you will immediately identify certain things about their character, and they will tell you the things that are really hurting them. So, for example, I asked a coach the other day, cool, awesome to see you on call. What's your journey to to get here. And they basically gave me a 4-minute story about how they went from referrals to word of mouth to wanting to grow on LinkedIn to trying to failing and it not working. They tried for months and then they came to me. And what this told me is I had this full background story without me having to even ask for any more probing pain points. And in that process, I could tell that this person was an active person. They saw LinkedIn as an opportunity, they tried it, it didn't work for them. So they're a go-getter. And the person also mentioned that they wanted to have a system and a process, and they were confused by generic advice. And this is really interesting because every little bit of information a prospect gives you is a peek into their character. This prospect is a go-getter because they wanted to get the result from LinkedIn, so they tried it themselves. They're an active person, but they also like systems and processes, and they don't like vague general statements because they said, I'm looking for a process. And that probably mirrors out into all parts of their life. So that very first question, you're actually trying to ascertain, who is this person? Once you get this piece of information, you begin to probe more and squeeze the pain points about what they wanted, but they couldn't get. I like to go, I ask them a question, they answer it. I mirror them. I said, that's interesting. I remember working with someone that had a similar situation. We did blah, 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 blah. But the thing we were trying to solve with them was this thing. Does that sound familiar to you? So what I've done is I've actually had a bit of a back and forth conversation. I've acknowledged what they were saying to me. I've made a reference to a micro case study, a little line saying that we've done this thing before. And then I've teased them into their next pain, and I've just dug a little bit deeper, but not saying it outwardly or so directly, but by saying it as part of another story. And if you do this a few times, you get really, really deep into the pain. Because it's not you asking about the pain, it's you presenting the pain and framing it as a third party, a third story. And we get really, really comfortable with speaking to each other. Now, in this process, when they're speaking, I'm always acknowledging and always listening. I'm literally going, I'm literally listening to them. I'm being very active in that process, and I'm giving them a verbal cue that I'm hearing them. Now, at some point in this process, they're going to ask you, okay, how do you help me? What do you do? Or you're going to say, okay, look, I think we can do something here. And at which point you explain what you do, and you maybe give a little pitch. Now, the key part about this pitch is just to speak about the outcome and the thing they desire, and use the exact words they use to you right back at them. You don't want to go into any more detail than that. If they want detail, they will ask you for the detail that they care about, and then you will open up for that detail only. Because ultimately, if you think about the thing you sell, there are so many details and nuances to it. We just don't know what matters to that prospect there and then. We go through the details, we explain what's going on, and then we ask them, okay, out of 10, how does this all sound? What are you thinking about? 10 being you want to jump with me right now, you want to start. You want to give me your social security number, you make a little joke. 0 being, hey, you don't want to work with me, this isn't a great situation. They give you a number. If it's 8 or above, you go for the close. And you say, cool, awesome, let's work together, blah, 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 here's the pricing, here's the framework, here's the payment link, let's kick it off. If they say no, you go, cool, what's stopping you from becoming an 8 or a 9 or a 10? Is there something going wrong? Is there something that you don't agree with? Let me know. And you obviously say it in some sort of words akin to this. They give you some reasons and you combat those objections, and then again you go back into the close. For me, it's almost very important I get some sort of money or some sort of intent to buy on that call. Now, what that means is maybe it's a deposit, maybe it's a paid in full, maybe it's a paid in two, maybe it's, hey, we'll sign up right now, maybe it's a signed contract, maybe it's let's book a second call, and then you ask them, what do you want to see on this second call, and you book it in and you get all the decision makers on the call. Whatever it is, it needs to be something that indicates there is intent. And if for whatever reason you feel like there's not intent on this sales call, you really simply say, I don't think this is probably the right fit, or I don't think you actually want to do this. Am I right in saying that? And if they can justify themselves to you that they want to buy this and they really want to work with you, you carry on. And if they can't, you're like, cool, that's okay. There's no issue with that. We don't need to work together. My sales calls are very clear. If you want to work with me, I'm very happy to, depending on if you are a fit for me. But if we're not a fit, that's okay. I'm not going to force the sales process down you. And if you have that mindset, it'll be much, much easier to close, to qualify, and to work with the people that help you grow your business. And there you have it. 6 years of LinkedIn expertise distilled into actionable principles you can implement right away. Now, what I find most interesting is that these strategies have remained effective even as LinkedIn has evolved. The platform changes, but ultimately human psychology does not. People want to connect with real people. They don't want to connect with faceless companies. And I've booked calls with the biggest companies like Calendly, Google, PwC, Reddit, using these exact methods. They're not theoretical. I promise you they're battle tested and they're proven. So my question for you is, which principle are you going to implement first? Pick one, implement it this week, and you'll start seeing results almost immediately. Thank you for watching. And if you want to learn how to make 100K a month from LinkedIn, check out this training I made down in the description below.